Welcome to the Building with Metal podcast, presented by McElroy Metal. Whether you're a contractor, architect, designer, or building owner, we're here to help you build better with metal roofing and siding products.
So Todd, when people hear AI marketing today, what's the first thing that many people get wrong?
They think it's a content volume game, right? They think they need to create lots of content. And it's kind of the opposite. AI today, AI search tools reward depth, they reward structure, and they reward people and brands that have authority, reward people that explain why they matter, why they're different, why they're unique. It's just not putting out more blog posts about generic or boring things or really thin content. To get cited, it needs to be good content that's relevant to the audience and answers a question and doesn't just give information.
Yeah, I think that's the real key that we found here at McElroy, right, is find those top questions and answer them, and then it is relevant automatically. So I think that's a great point. So what's the one myth that you would love to bust about AI?
This is a clickbaity headline I see all the time. You'll hear people say, oh, SEO is dead. No, it's not. AI is not killing SEO. It's just changing. SEO has always been about the tools that are available to make information available to people, to get answers to your questions, to search the information that's out there. It's no different now. It's just different tools. Search is fragmenting and it's becoming different in terms of, again, there's different tools, so they do different things. So again, you're moving from chasing those clicks and trying to get in the top 3 in Google to being cited as the answer in a prompt or in the answer to a prompt you use in an AI tool. But go to Google today, right? Google is still top dog in search, and YouTube's number 2. You're really still in a Google world to a great extent, but even then, the top answers are now AI answers. You're getting the answer in the search, and then you get cited in that answer. So it's migrated. It's not dead. It's just changed.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And in case people haven't noticed, if you do still use Google a lot, the very first answer you'll see at the top, to Todd's point, is an AI summary, of the content out there. So, all right. Well, search is changing faster than ever, right? In the past, people would go into Google, they'd type a question, get their answer, get the top results, and move on. But now, people are using AI. They're putting their questions into ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, and it's changing the game. So the question is, how do you make sure that your company specializes and returns and searches for everything from SEO, to Todd's point, but also AEO and even GEO? And how are those things all different? Stick with us today as we unpack the facts, the myths, and help you make your company searchable and findable in this new world of AI. My guest today is Todd Hockenberry. Todd is an inbound SEO expert, an author, and a dedicated member of our team here at McElroy Metal. Thanks for joining the show, Todd.
It is my pleasure to be here, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, so let's get started with the first, what I consider kind of the basics. So we hear all these terms, all these acronyms all the time. Can you help us separate what they are and kind of define them just at a high level to where, we don't make people's eyes gloss over? So what's the difference between SEO, AEO, and GEO?
So SEO is search engine optimization, and that's the classic. We're going to create content and we want to get found by Google and get ranked. So we want to get in the top 10 or top 20 even, and ideally the top 3. And those are the rankings that show up underneath the paid ads and the AI answers that we're seeing now. So that's the classic online tool or method to get found. AEO is answer engine optimization, and those are your AI tools. That's Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, you name it. There's a bunch of them out there, but that is AEO, answer engine optimization, is about structuring your content so the AI tools cite you as the source, and they extract from your content kind of the answer to the question they were addressing. So it tends to be a block of content as opposed to a whole page or an article. It's looking for a standalone answer that it can cite and give you the citation as the authoritative answer on that question. GEO is generative engine optimization, and that's what a model says about you across the entire surface of that AI tool, even in the answers that don't give a citation or a link. So it's a little different. It's adjacent to AEO, but it's a little different, and it's positioning your company as the authority across an entire AI tool. And candidly, I wouldn't pick one or the other. If it was me, and I do this every day, I would focus on AEO because you'll rank in SEO and you'll rank across the model if you follow AEO best practices. But I would say in terms of your audience, even before you get to SEO and AEO and GEO, is if you're a contractor and you're dealing in a local market, master your local market marketing, right? That's different than a national or international AEO or SEO strategy. Make sure your Google location page is up to date and you're using it and you're getting reviews and rankings. Get those local things right first, and then add on your content on top of that and try to get ranked in the AI tools.
That's a great point, Todd. And I think we had some earlier content, maybe even a podcast on that. And so we'll link to that in the notes for this show in case you don't know a lot about local marketing efforts and you want to brush up your skills on that. We can help you do that as well. So kind of a great segue or point on that, Todd. Okay, so now that we understand the differences between SEO, AEO, and GEO, the next $1 million question, right? So how has all of this changed website traffic, or has it?
There's numbers all over the map. It used to be if you were ranked 1, 2, or 3 in Google, you could guarantee you were going to get something like 50% of the traffic for that keyword. They would click through that ranking listing and click the link and go to your page. Now people aren't. They have the answer right in the result. The search result puts the AI answer at the top if it's Google, or if you're in ChatGPT or Claude, you get the answer right there. You may or may not ever click through to the page, right? So it's down significantly, and it's all over the map. B2C, consumer-oriented things are way down. B2B, manufacturing, industrial are down less, but they are down. So if your traffic's even, you're probably winning, right? You're doing okay, but it's going to continue to move that direction. More and more people are going to use them. More and more people are going to use these tools on their phone. So instead of using Google on their phone and clicking a link, they're going to pull up ChatGPT and ask the same question, right? Because when they do a ChatGPT, they're going to get a deeper answer than Google. For example, you might get a summary of all the reviews. You might get your rankings or current issues with whatever, right? So you get a richer experience. So that's why that's going to continue to happen. It's going to keep going that direction.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I know from our results that's right on track. So, as marketers, we always historically traffic was king, right? And based on your silo or your specialty, you knew that X amount of traffic would turn into X number of leads and through the pipeline. If the traffic numbers are kind of moot or falling, how do companies make sure that they get found in these results, and how should they measure their marketing success going forward if it's not based on traffic?
Well, the flip side of traffic going down is that the traffic you do get is often higher quality, because the people that are coming to your site are coming because they've gotten a full answer, they've gotten more context, they've got a deeper understanding of the answers they're looking for, and they want more. They want to learn about you. So oftentimes with less traffic, you get more or better quality conversions. The people that show up on your website or come in through your contact us or call you are oftentimes more qualified and better quality. So it's an inverse relationship. You're going to see traffic potentially going down, but you should hopefully, if you're doing AEO right, you'll see your leads and conversions going up. So you'd ask about measuring. We don't lead with traffic much anymore. We lead with conversions. How are we doing in driving your ideal target audience? That's really the most important measure anyway, right? No matter what marketing you're doing, are you driving qualified leads from targeted audience people, right? That's the gold standard of any marketing campaign.
Yeah, and our experience again at McElroy dovetails exactly with what you're saying, and we've all been at this 18 months now, 2 years on the AI thing, and at first our traffic was going down, and we just we were not really concerned about it, but we had a strategy for AI, we kept doing it, and it wasn't for maybe 6 months or so until we realized, well, yeah, traffic's going down, but our lead quality is going up. And so at the end of the day, it's all about observing a different metric and making sure that you're pushing the content out and the channels that you need to accomplish those new results, if you will. And to that point, that kind of brings me to my next question, Todd. What's the best type of content or channels to get found in AI?
It's direct answers to real questions that people ask. We tell salespeople all the time, I've been telling people this for 15 years. Make notes of every question every customer asks you, write it down, give it to your marketing department and have them write or create content around those questions. That's always worked. And that was an SEO play, and it's still an AEO play. That's still the way it works. Understand your audience well enough to know what they're looking for and give it to them with authoritative content. That means citing sources, having original data, having comparisons to your competitors or alternatives. So in your world, it's metal roofs versus shingles, metal roofs versus clay tiles, right? You're going to, honestly assess those two things compared to one another, right? That's going to get people's attention. But real stories, right? I mean, for contractors, I tell contractors that I talk to, you have content all day, every day. You're creating content. Everything you build is content. Everything you put together, every project you work on is content. If you recognize it as content, you turn it into case study stories, Instagram, LinkedIn stories, Reels, all the stuff, right? You can share it, and that's what people want to consume, and that's what AI and even Google, right, are going to reward. It's that real content. It's the generic stuff, the how to, or, what is this? That's gone by the wayside. AI answers that easily because it's got this repository of giant amount of information. It's going to answer that. You're not going to be the authority on that. You can be the authority on what you do, how you do it, and how it impacts your customers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, earlier, Todd, you mentioned that YouTube was the second largest search engine optimization. And I think about our contractors and our listeners today and architects, and, maybe a lot of people are operating with a fairly small marketing team. What is the maybe lowest hanging fruit or easiest content for them to take and push out that will help with AI? Is it install videos of their folks on the job? Is it, install manuals that maybe are a PDF? Is it case studies, to your point?
Yeah, I mean, the manuals and the kind of data sheets and the installed things, right? Those are important, right? I mean, for McElroy, I think some of the most popular videos you have are install videos showing people how to install things, right? I know other contractors that'll do videos about tools. Like, we use these tools. Here's how we use them. Here's why we like them. Here's the impact, right? Those are big. That stuff matters. People pay attention to that. And the AI tools actually take transcripts of those videos and absorb them. So as you're answering questions in your videos, it's absorbing those as answers for the model. So again, I would go back again and say, if you're printing it and you're producing it on paper for somebody, whether it's a PowerPoint, sales talking points, quotes, even proposals, I would be looking to all those kind of printed documents and figuring out a way to get that online and get that on my site to share with people so that, again, the AI tools can absorb them. And again, you can use them to help get found.
So I think that's a great point. I do want to dig in and unpack that one just a little bit. So what is the best format for AI to crawl documents? If it's a PDF, is that okay? Should it be like a separate page on their website? Talk us through that if you would.
That's a good question. Ideally, it would be an HTML page on your website, and then you would have the option to download it as a PDF or print it as a PDF. PDFs are nice because they are good for printing. It's old school to think about, right? You format it once and nobody's changing it. It's consistent, and the data's there. It's easy to print or share. Take the same data, same file, put it on a web page, and you can put a button on there, say, click here to download PDF, right? You have the same data in the PDF. But if you make it as HTML, now you're making it easy for the engines to see it, the search engines to see it, the AI tools to see it. And again, now you're building your website, you're building your digital content, and the more content you have, good content that you have, not junk content, good content you have, the better you're going to be.
Right. And in case our listeners aren't familiar, when Todd refers to an HTML, it's just another page on your website, right? And so that's typically going to be more searchable or crawlable by AI than a standalone PDF. And so to his point, you can have the same content, but just put it on a web page on your site, and then maybe just have a click to print in case somebody, does still want that PDF document. So let's talk websites, Todd. Are there certain characteristics of a website that AI trusts more than others? And if so, what are they?
First and foremost, it has to have the basic underpinnings set up correctly. Things like a sitemap have to be built correctly. The URL structure has to make sense. It has to be kind of homepage, parent pages, child pages, grandchild pages that's logical, that it makes sense. So these are kind of basic things to build your site. We see reason I bring that up is we see a lot of people that don't do that, right? They it's scattershot, it's not thought through. So some of these kind of back-end basic things are really important to get right. The schema is another one. This is a little bit in the weeds, technical term, but think of if you're doing e-commerce shopping and you wanted to search for a pin that was part number XYZ123. Again, the people that are selling that part, they use schema to say, this is the size, this is the shape, this is the type, material, and it's back-end code that says to the engines, this is the size, this is the shape, this is the part number. That kind of basic structure of your site so that the information's clear to the engines is important. So those are the back-end things. So again, if you don't know anything about building a website, it would be worth finding somebody that knows that stuff to help you build it right one time. At least get the back-end structure right. Beyond that, content you're creating, again, we talked about this before, be clear, specific, factual, that has sources, original data, original content, things that the AI tools can't find anywhere else. Oftentimes you want to structure it in a question and answer. So the headers of the pages are questions. I think, again, you're talking about being consistent across the website. This is another one of those ones that's kind of the local marketing, making sure that your name is consistent across everything on the internet, your phone number, how you describe your product names. It's very consistent. That matters. And again, then having anything that signals expertise, right? Studies, articles you've written, being on a podcast and putting that podcast on your website, things like that. Things that are showing that you're an expert and you're sharing with other people your ideas, I think, are all trust signals that all the engines, no matter what they are going to help rank you for. And then people want that, right? They want trust signals. They want to know that you're reputable, right? That you've got expertise and you've got certifications and that you've done the training and that you're associated with reputable companies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, those are my suggestions.
Yeah, I think those are all really good points. And I know at McElroy, one of the reasons we've added the video element of our podcast is, and push the podcast in general, is that at this point, and I say that because AI changes, in my opinion, every day, within every hour of every day. But at this point, AI can't replicate a conversation between two human beings. And so we felt like this was a format that was unique and that we really wanted to take and push from that standpoint. And they're not an easy lift by any means, but maybe what you come up with is different than this, but it's in your wheelhouse and something you can pull off. But again, to Todd's point, that unique content is super important to AI. So Todd, when we talk about SEO, AEO, and GEO, and you've mentioned keywords, talk us through, are keywords as important as they used to be?
They are important, but the size of the keyword has changed, right? It used to be, say, I'll use a general metal roofing, right? When we first started working together, really, one of the things we wanted to do was rank for metal roofing. Well, we realized pretty quickly, maybe not, because metal roofing can be a lot of things to a lot of people. And maybe it shows a Home Depot panel for, $20 that you don't necessarily want to sell. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just different business. But we started to qualify that. It would be like standing seam metal roofing or metal roofing for commercial buildings, things like that. And now it's more of expanded even farther to be more of that question. What is the right standing seam metal roofing for my commercial building in Phoenix, Arizona, right? That's the kind of question you would ask an AI tool, right? That's very nuanced. There's a lot in that, a lot of details. So, but the keywords still matter, but those questions and high-level topics need to be the ones you really focus on, not necessarily a single small keyword set, but that kind of conversational topic that somebody would want to know an answer to. And again, it's about knowing the buyer and what they're after. And again, your buyers, right? Figure out what they ask, what they need. Here's the other question I try to ask my clients all the time. What is different about your customers when they work with you? What is different if they don't work with you? And if you answer that question, you're now getting into the unique pieces, right? How you impact their business, right? If you are a partner that sends them leads and help them close business, that's a big impact on their business, way beyond your product. If they don't work with you now, maybe the lead times are different or the breadth of product is different. Whatever it is, you need to figure that out. And again, write about those things because that's your strength, right? That's what makes you different.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we've really tried to focus on a lot is answering questions. And I give you credit for that. We started on that journey, 8 or 9 years ago now, asking our reps, what questions they were getting in the field, because that is what people go on Google or go onto their AI platform and they're asking questions. So I think that's huge. In the whole scheme of all of this, AI content and topic and searchability and coming up in results, is website speed still important, Todd?
Yeah, it's table stakes now, right? If you have a bad website, it's slow, I'm out, gone. If your site doesn't load in a couple of seconds, I mean, even 2 seconds is a long time. I'm leaving, I'm going somewhere else. Your site can't look like it was made in 1997, right? You has to look a certain way. Those are table stakes, right? They used to be differentiators, but now there's just an expectation that your site's going to be at a certain quality level for sure.
What about backlinks? Are they still important? Linking out to, you talked about sources and third-party sites and stuff. Is that still important?
Yes, they still matter for SEO. They still give you authority, but they're not quite as important as being cited. And being cited is different than a backlink. A backlink is this website over here pointing to your site here. So if you have a very authoritative sites that are pointing to you, that's an authority and a trust signal. So that doesn't change. I think it's the quantity of those links is not quite as important as it used to be. And it's more, AI is looking at a lot of different things, right? It's looking at things like, are you talked about on Reddit and Quora, which surprisingly are very important sources of information to the AI engines. So a link there or a mention there is of higher value, I think, than having your supplier who may not have a lot of authority online linked to you, right? Those other places where you have authority, we're seeing press releases now are becoming more important.
Interesting. So, we've talked a lot about measuring results, and I know how the tools we use at McElroy. How can somebody, a mid-tier or mid-level contractor, architectural firm, distributor figure out how they look and how they're ranking in AI and find their areas of opportunity, Todd?
That's a good question. There are tools, lots of tools out there that'll help you analyze your website. Just search free AI website analyzers, you'll find tab. I have one. I made one. It took me about a half an hour, not even that long to make one using AI. So again, you can find a free tool to do that. The other way to do it is just go to pick your tool. I'm a Claude fan. I use ChatGPT a lot too. I'm starting to use Perplexity more for research. Go to those tools or the Microsoft or Google ones, pick your tool and start typing in those questions like we've been talking about. See what happens. Do you come up? Right? Put in something like, give me the best 10 contractors in Las Vegas, right? Pick a number, pick a town, wherever you live, put it in there, see if you pop up, right? Just spend a half an hour and query it, ask it questions and see what happens. That's going to give you a good sense of where you are and where you might need to build content. But again, I start with the free tools. There's paid tools, but candidly, most people don't need those. I think if you just ask most of the engines the questions, they'll tell you. It will tell you who they're citing and who they're ranking. And so just have a conversation with them. That's a weird sentence. Have a conversation with them.
I know, right? I do the same as well. I converse with mine like I'm talking to you all of the time. So, and they react well to that, whatever platform you're using. And to your point, one of the things I did early on was say, hey, go look at my website. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong?
Sure.
From an AI standpoint. And I also love another thing you said, that you don't just use one platform. If you're not familiar, a lot with them yet, they're all good at different things, right? Now, and that changes. So Gemini initially was the best at photos, right? And Claude was supposed to be good at programming. And, now I've got ChatGPT that's kind of blowing Gemini out of the water on photos last week. So, you can't put a stake in the ground with this stuff, but don't be afraid to use multiple tools or to check what one gives you with another one. I do that a lot as well. So, okay, a couple of questions. First one, what is one thing that marketers should stop doing immediately in the new age of AI?
Don't publish content just to publish it. Don't put stuff on your social media just to check a box. Be intentional, be interesting, be unique, have a voice, have an opinion, have a point of view. Don't just do it just to do it. Do it with intent. You'll not only waste your time if you don't do it with intent, there's negative consequences to doing it poorly, right? You can be, like you said, nobody's truly worthless. You can always be a bad example. You may want to cut that one out.
Oh, I think it's funny. We'll leave it. Oh
like
my
that.
goodness, that's great. Okay, so wrap up question here. I'm going to ask you to kind of get your crystal ball out. It is June 2029, so 3 years fast forward. A homeowner or contractor goes into ChatGPT and asks, who makes the best standing seam roof, right? You mentioned this a few minutes ago. What will have McElroy done over the previous 3 years that helps us return or rank in those search results?
This is going to be a rehash of a lot of what we said, right? It's going to be, you're going to build content around that buyer who wants standing seam metal roofing systems. You're not going to focus on products. You're going to focus on the buyer and the questions they ask. You're going to create pillar pages on your site that anchor those questions on pages. You're going to have content that links to it, that goes into depth about those questions. And you're going to have a lot of that kind of frequently asked question type of content. These are the 20 top questions people ask me ask us about standing seam roofing systems, and here's the answers. You're going to build authority across the entire web. You're going to have trade journals citing you. You're going to have press releases. You're going to have case studies about standing seam roofs. You're going to have reviews of people talking about standing seam roofs. It's not just going to be on your website. It's going to be across the web. You're going to be in lots of places. You're going to have sourced all of your claims. You're going to, again, mention this, right? You're going to have verifiable sources that say that when you say in the last 60 years, you have sources that say last 60 years. You're going to take all the technical information around that and make it readable to the AI tools and accessible. You're going to create new technical information that answers questions that people haven't asked yet. You're going to anticipate the questions they will be asking in the future, because you know that in California or in Florida, the rules are changing and this is what they're going to need. So you're going to anticipate those things and have that content ready for them.
Whew, that sounds like a busy 3 years.
I'm not even done.
Well, I'm glad you'll be along for the journey. So, Todd, if any of our listeners today want to reach out to you and chat about AI or SEO, GEO, AEO, what's the best way for them to find you?
My website's toddhockenberry.com, one word. I'm findable on LinkedIn. Happy to engage with you and answer questions anytime.
Fabulous. As always, thanks for your partnership and thanks for joining us today, Todd.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it. Thanks, Gabby.
Thanks for listening to the Building with Metal podcast, presented by McElroy Metal. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Visit us online at www.mcelroymetal.com for more info and products. Until next time, keep building with metal.